Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Hope Collective. On this channel, I use tarot and oracle cards to help me focus my spiritual gifts and energetic sensitivity to bring through messages from the spirit guides and higher selves of this collective, the Hope Collective. And today, rather than doing a pick a card, I am just doing a singular general collective reading for guidance, and I'm starting with the Shadowscapes Tarot. Spirit guides and higher selves of this collective, what messages does this group need to hear today? What do we need to bring through? We have the Seven of Cups. This deck has such detail in the art, and at first I forgot to bring the image closer to the camera. The Seven of Cups, choices, I just heard. Let's see what else we get. The World, something coming full circle, the end of one chapter closing out and a new one beginning. I'm being really drawn to the reverence with which this figure is placing their forehead upon this orb that they're holding. The feeling that I'm being given by spirit through this card, through this image, is someone honoring something before they say goodbye to it. With the birds flying off as well, and I'm being drawn back to the Seven of Cups, where this individual is pointing at the castle in the sky. Normally, this is quite a different interpretation coming through than anything I've gotten before, but what I'm getting is this memory, dream, or idea floating away, and this individual saying goodbye to it. The Seven of Cups often indicates indecision or difficulty choosing between all the seven cups and all the different contents of them. And that's part of how I would typically interpret the castle in the sky in this card, is a little bit of difficulty choosing whether to ground that castle in the sky or whether to invest in a different idea. And I'm getting a little bit from the Seven of Cups, a little bit of reluctance to let go of this old chapter or this old dream or this memory. Perhaps also an old connection with a person or situation. But with the World card, a strong signal that your higher self is letting go of it, and that it is bringing a close to this chapter and signaling to your human self to take the steps needed to say goodbye and let go, to sort of, with these ribbons coming undone around the arm here, to unwind the ties that bind you to that old outcome. It's similar to the roots in this image here, unbinding the roots that might be holding down this old structure so that you have the ability to fertilize the ground and plant new ideas, new seeds there. The Empress, definitely speaking to a new idea being ready to be born into the world. And it fits perfectly that where these two figures are looking off to the left, this one is looking off to the right, just as if the old is being sent off to the left and the new is being brought in on the right. We have the butterflies in the Empress card as well, signaling the transformation, and these butterflies are butterflies. They're out of the cocoon, they're reborn, they're forming something new with the way that they're forming into a circle here. And she has her ribbon around a wreath as well, also forming something new out of old flowers. So that may signal that there is something about your new creation, your new idea, your new path that does recycle elements. Help me with the words for this, Spirit, because it's not that there are actual components of the old dream that are being recycled into the new. The feeling is that the structure of the new is completely new, brand new, completely fresh. But there's something about the motivation, the way it makes you feel, that has not changed. It's like your ultimate goal, most of us, our ultimate goal in life is happiness, right? So it's as if you are seeking your happiness through a completely new means now, rather than it being like rather than it being that you're recycling an old dream and just tweaking certain things about it, you have a completely new, fresh path ahead of you. But the reason for that path is that you've discovered that this has a very strong chance of being a much, much better, more effective, more fulfilling, more soft and gentle perhaps, and less harsh and full of struggle or fraught with difficulty and danger. But in whatever way, a better path towards what you ultimately want from your dream or your mission, perhaps. Perhaps you have something you want to accomplish that you thought you were going to accomplish. Just to give some examples, like maybe you thought you were going to go into music therapy, but you decided actually that you prefer just going into psychology or just going into music over combining the two. And you've realized that you can accomplish your goal of helping people with making songs that help people, or being a producer that helps musicians, or being a different type of like somatic counselor, completely different than how you imagined applying psychology in the past, but something that you actually find much more effective for your personal fulfillment. Or another example might be that you really liked certain things about the way the job that you've had made you feel. You liked the appreciation or recognition you got for accomplishing certain things. You liked certain elements like organization, but the context in which they were being applied made you miserable. So you're finding, or you have found, I'm hearing definitely you have found, as opposed to you're finding a new job or a new opportunity that allows you to derive that same satisfaction of getting recognized for your organizational skills and for your people skills, but you're getting to apply them in a completely different context. So it's completely fresh. It looks nothing like your old job, and it gives you all these other wonderful benefits without you having to sacrifice those things that you did actually like at your old job. So just some examples there. There's something also in this Empress, or from this Empress card through it, that I'm getting about this liberation, this freedom of not having to hold back certain creative impulses. So for example, maybe one of the things you didn't like about that old job was how you didn't get to apply certain ideas that you had for improving processes. And that's actually something that the people who've hired you at your new opportunity really, really want and value from you. They are really looking forward to getting some consultation on how to improve processes that they have. Or with that example of music therapy, maybe you realized that doing music therapy specifically wouldn't give you as much time to really freely pursue and express your own creative music ideas. And that's why you realize, you know what, I'm going to pursue writing and publishing my own music in a way that in such a way that I get to express thoughts that I think that are helpful to me, and that I hope and think will help and inspire and encourage and bring comfort to other people. And that's how I'm going to help people, instead of this other way. And I get to have so much creative freedom, the freedom to bring into expression and into the world exactly what the spirit moves me to, exactly what is moving through me on any given day, exactly what I want to. I'm getting like the smell of grass and sunshine in the summer, like something about the freedom to be outdoors as well, or the nourishment of being outdoors, which makes sense with the Empress being such an earthy card. It is, my words fled me for a moment there. It is associated with the sign of Taurus, which is an earth sign, and an earth sign that is all about harvesting and abundance, the luxury of really being rooted in the earth and thriving from that, like the luxury of trees bearing fruit and getting to enjoy and luxuriate in an abundant harvest. That's why there's such a fruitful harvest of roses here. It's like this overwhelm, this overflow of blooms. And the Empress herself is a manifestation of that and a manifestor of that. as someone who brings that into being and is an expression of it herself. There's a oneness there and a two-way street there that is part of this liberation feeling, where it's like, I get to give and receive in the same breath. I get to receive the same abundance that is flowing out through me to the world, because I am pursuing expressing my truth into the world in this specific way. It actually opens me up, frees me up, allows me to receive these same good feelings, this same fulfillment, this freedom, this abundance, whether it's adequate compensation or creative freedom, whatever abundance it is that I'm getting from this opportunity actually frees me up to feel in this luxurious, free, liberated way. And I get to pour that back in to this art, to this career path, to this pursuit, to this mission. And so that makes that mission or that path so much more abundant in turn, because such high vibrations are being poured into it. And it becomes this beautiful upward spiral, this like never-ending infinity symbol loop, where the better this job or this pursuit makes you feel, the higher vibrations you're pouring back into it, the more inspired you are to pour back into it, and the better it makes you feel again. And it just keeps going and keeps recharging you and keeps recharging what you're pouring into. And I'm getting that this actually, for those of you this applies to, actually allows you then to start generating an audience. That loop charging up, that infinity loop charging up with good feelings, high vibrations, and abundance, like infinite inspiration to keep pouring back into the work you're doing, actually becomes like this inevitable magnetic attractor of an audience, whether that's clients who are purchasing your work, people who are viewing your work online, word of mouth for your business. It's just like people can't help but be drawn into that vibration. It's inevitable. It's not something that you have to try for. It's a consequence, a side effect of what you're actually going for, which is how it makes you feel to pursue this path. And I'm being drawn to the full moon and the sun in these cards as symbols of that abundance and that sense of infinite recharging. The way stars shine light that charges up and nourishes all that they shine upon on our planet without it costing them anything. It's just part of who they are. We're all drawn to the sunlight because it nourishes us. It grows the plants that we need for food. It gives us vitamin D. It gives us incredible energy to sit in the sunlight or exist in the sunlight. The sun isn't trying to get an audience per se. It happens to, as a consequence of what it's already doing. We also have, interesting, we have the Knight of Cups reversed. Okay, I'm going to need some clarification on that, Spirit. What is coming through in this card? Reversed. I was drawn to put it over by the Seven of Cups, so it might have to do with, okay, I think this has to do with what I'm getting from Spirit, from the Spirit guides of this collective, the higher selves of this collective, is that this is a message or information about what's holding you back from this abundance, this path, this opportunity, or this new beginning. Not that it's blocking it completely, but what is kind of slowing you down or creating hesitation in you, creating resistance in you. What is it that is creating resistance in you? So let's get more information from the card, Spirit. What else can we bring through to clarify the Knight of Cups reversed? What is causing hesitation? Because with this, there's this tidal wave in the Knight of Cups, and with it being reversed, it's like, okay, the tidal wave is coming, whether you resist it or not, but there's a little grain of resistance in this group. And what can we bring through to help this group release that resistance? Spirit guides, higher selves of the collective, Spirit, Source. Okay, we're gonna, let's see here. Oh, more cups. Okay, so we have the Eight of Cups reversed. Interesting. The Eight of Cups is glowing, but it looks like she's actually, it looks like this mermaid figure is actually diving deeper into the water. Almost seeking something out to try and catch it in her cup. And we have this with the Seven of Cups as well, so there's definitely significance to having the 7, 8, and Knight. But the Eight of Cups was reversed. The Eight of Cups often indicates that a disappointment has occurred and that you're moving on. You're walking away from that disappointing situation, that dissatisfying situation. So the Eight of Cups reversed does go along with this theme that we have of resisting moving on, having a little bit of trouble letting go. And with the way this individual is fixated on this light, as if trying to recapture it in their cup, in her cup, it makes me think that there is something that you liked about the previous situation, that you're kind of a little bit obsessed with not losing, and that you don't think you can get back in another form, or part of you doesn't think you can get that back in another form, a better form, in another situation. There's a fearful inkling from a part of you of, but what if this never comes back? What if I can't get this in any other form? What if this is my only chance at this specific thing? So there's an overwhelming reassurance from your spirit guides that that's not the case. If there's anything specific coming to mind for you, that's not the case. With the cups, I just got this flash of a vision in my mind of there being like a specific group or a type of gathering of people from this past opportunity, or this, for some of you, this wasn't even something that you were in for very long, with the way this castle in the sky, this tree in the sky, and the Seven of Cups is floating by. There are roots dangling from it, and there are many situations, many readings where the context would make me go, oh, this is something that has had time to grow, that you're uprooting here. But the overwhelming message from Spirit for this particular reading is that this is just kind of an idea or a fantasy that was just floating by in the sky. For some of you, truly it was a fantasy, not something that ever actually got enough invested into it, enough time or energy invested into it to become something grounded in reality, as opposed to an idea or a thought or a plan. It may have been a plan that you invested a lot of hope and feeling in, so I'm not trying to invalidate or belittle that, because I'm getting that feeling quite strongly from at least some of this group. I think not everyone. I think for some it was more of a passing fantasy, but there's still this concern of, but what if that vision is the only path to this cup, this holy grail, this chalice, this light that I'm trying to capture, this feeling that I want to embody in life. There's a couple points to be made here. Definitely the overwhelming main message here is it's not the only form that you can experience that light or that dream or vision in. Also, though, there's the vibrational disparity here, where the energy of trying to capture that light in a cup is the exact inverse, actually, of that upward-outward spiral of the liberation and freedom and infinity, the infinite feedback loop of the, I invest more in this and it recharges me more, and I'm inspired to invest even more, and it inspires me even more. That there's a wildness and uncapturability to that freedom that trying to capture it in a bottle, in a cup, is just diametrically opposed to. So there's a message along with the, no, this is not the only form that you can have this vision in. In fact, it's one of the smaller forms that you could have that vision in. That's why that vision is being exploded, to open your mind to this liberation, to have you let go of this bubble so that you can see the gorgeous full moon and open sky and sun ahead that are so much more glorious than that small orb. Yes, you cherished that orb for a reason, if you did cherish it, if it was more than a passing fantasy to you, and it is vital and important to honor it as you let it go. But the very reason that you feel an attachment to it is actually the very reason that you are blowing open your mind to invest in this new thing. So it's not like, oh, I have to say goodbye to this piece of myself. It's, I'm calling back this piece of myself from its attachment to this specific idea, this little bubble. I'm calling back my energy from that, and I'm letting it flow through me into this beckoning freedom, this idea that is actually so much more expansive than the bubble I was scared to let go of. And so it's no longer scary to let go of when you really feel that in your body, when you really feel, oh, I don't have to say goodbye to this piece of me. I'm not losing anything. I am gaining so much. I'm being protected and redirected from something that would have actually been confining and potentially disappointing. So the Eight of Cups reversed is alerting you, hey, maybe you haven't realized yet that this thing that you were chasing or planning or considering would have actually confined you. Once you realize that, it's like the Eight of Cups energy turns up right, and you walk away from what would have been disappointing to invest your energy in, and you make with the Seven of Cups a wise choice about what to invest your energy in, instead of going, I don't know, this is very confusing. There, if my dream is to pursue happiness or to help people, there are a million ways I can do that. Which way do I do? Which ways do I actually invest energy in? The Seven of Cups often goes along with decision paralysis. And this reading is all about freeing yourself from that. And also recognizing, there's another message with that, about recognizing that anything that you pour that high vibration energy that we have with the world and the Empress into, anything that you pour that really genuine love, that desire to be happy, that desire to help people, that loves what it's doing so much that it's really unconcerned with self in that moment. It's in the flow, it's free, it's liberated, it's expansive. Anything that you pour that energy, that love, that care and desire into is not a waste. It will either lead you further in this direction of the self-liberation and the service and the creativity, the infinity and abundance, or it will be something that you learn from, and so it's still taking you in the direction of all that, even if for a moment you go, oh, this was a blip, I have to drop this, it burned me, I have to recover and redirect. It's still part of that path. So there's just a hiccup at the moment of letting go of something that looked like it might be a dream but was actually a confinement, and letting it redirect you, and recognizing that this too was something that you learned from, not a waste of your time, not something to beat yourself up for, but a pivotal moment and truly pivotal, like you are pivoting from this into this massive expansion, this truly a massive expansion and liberation. And so that sort of wall that you get to push yourself off of, you can thank that as you let it go and push off of it and call your energy back from it, and ask that energy of yours where it wants to go next, and let it pull you there. That Rumi quote is coming to mind of let yourself be drawn. Oh goodness, I don't remember the words off the top of my head, but something about being drawn by the strange pull of what you love. I'm sure Googling some combination of those words with the name Rumi will yield a much more correct translation of the original Rumi. A poet and author that I just totally love and adore. I love those old mystics. But yes, let yourself be drawn by the strange pull of what you love. It's mysterious, it's mystical, it's mystifying, and it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to pull you into expansion. And the very nature of expansion is that from this bubble, from this confined perspective, you couldn't possibly see it. From the cocoon, you can't possibly experience flight. But as you push out of the cocoon, you discover it, and it's yours, and it's your birthright. And you discover more and more expansion as you go on this upward spiral. And that's the point of expansion. It's not supposed to always feel safe. You're not supposed to know what's coming next all the time, even if you are, very in touch with your intuition and your psychic abilities and have a lot of plans. Those things are all wonderful things. Having some eyes on the next steps and a feel on the pulse intuitively of what's coming are wonderful, good, positive things and tools. But you're also not supposed to know everything that comes next, and certainly not supposed to know how, because that is the universe's job, source's job, not yours. Your job is to hold the vision and let the energy tell you what the next step is, where to put one foot in front of the other, and let the how unfold so naturally from that. You're being called out of the confinement of second guessing each of those steps and trying to make it perfect and trying to make sure it's the right step as you even take it or before you even take it, and causing each step to be so hesitant when the liberation you're looking for is in running ahead, skipping ahead joyfully, or swimming or flying. If you're cautiously holding one toe above the water, trying to feel the temperature, you never get to dive in and swim and break free. So yes, if you're flying, if you're a bird or a butterfly, having awareness and attention to the pulse of the currents and which way they're flowing is important. But if you thought that it was your job to control those air currents and those winds, you would drive yourself insane and have a horrible time as a butterfly or bird. It's not your job. So there is, for those of you this type of language speaks to, there is a give it up to God type of messaging. There's a let the universe take care of it. Let source take care of you. They've got your back. Your spirit guides have got your back as well, but this is much bigger than that. This is much bigger than any of those individual relationships with spirit guides, as important and crucial and beautiful as they are. This is source, the universe, the totality and the infinity of everything that is has got your back. You're not supposed to be in control of things that are that vast. You're not supposed to be able to predict them, or to be able to choose based on what happens 5 years from now. You're not. There's a certain letting go of the reins, like I said, letting go of that orb, that confinement, that old way of doing things or looking at things. Not so much for this group an old way of doing things or looking at things, although that might be inherent in this liberation, but just a specific way that you were thinking something was going to turn out, and as you start to detach from it, I think the feeling with this vibe, this frequency I'm getting from this group is, as you start to detach from it, you're going to realize, oh, I was invested in it because I thought it was the only way to get what I wanted, but I actually really don't even like this very much. I'm so relieved and thankful that there's such a more expansive and better way for me to create or get what I'm wanting and to live the life that I'm wanting. Okay. I have another Shadowscapes Tarot. Okay. The Knight of Wands also in reverse. Here's what it looks like upright. I love the foxes and the wands on this deck. Such a magnificent creature too. This steed on this Knight card is some kind of chimera. There's lion energy, reminding me of the Strength card, which is reminding me with the messages that just came through that true strength is not in control. True power is not in having power over others or controlling situations and outcomes and all of that. True power and true strength are very, very different frequencies from that, actually quite diametrically opposed, because true strength and power involve being just completely present, and that means completely surrendered to what is in the present reality, and having the strength to really be present and respond accordingly without flinching, without resisting, without having this fear of like, oh, I need to try and flinch back from, cringe away from, and control what is. I am strong enough and have enough faith and trust in myself and in the universe to be completely present with it, what is, completely surrendered to what is, and act accordingly. A bit difficult to put that into words, so I hope the vibration has been coming through. This creature has these massive paws too. There's just, the night is merely riding the untamable steed that happens to love the night enough to allow allow the night to ride along without coming to harm at the hands of these massive claws and paws, without being trampled. And I think riding the energies of creativity and of life and of emotions is very similar, where if you try to control them, well, then you end up pulling on the hair of the horse or the steed and causing it to not like you very much and kick you and trample you. Whereas if you allow the steed to actually lead the way and you have that trusting relationship, then it will respond to these gentle nudges of like, ooh, I see there's multiple paths available to us. Let's go left. I like that path. Or you're able to actually hold your posture in such a way that you aren't harmed by all the galloping leaps your steed takes. This type of relationship with your own life force and the direction of your life and the currents, the energies of source in the universe is something you're being called into with these Knight cards here. The Knight of Cups on the waves, like we often use that metaphor of surfing the waves when it comes to emotions, when it comes to energy, when it comes to life in general. Where there's a certain amount of surrender required and an acceptance of this is a lot bigger than me. And if I tried to, if a surfer tried to think they could control the waves, just like we were talking about with the bird, they'd be drowning in 5 seconds flat. It's not the skillful way to go about things, and it's not true strength. Bravery is being called for, but there's, again, with how we led into this, with all those messages from the world and the Empress, it's not bravery that is so hard, as people are so conditioned to think that bravery and courage are so hard and so difficult and so impossible. And I'm not saying there aren't moments where they are, but as a whole, bravery and courage do not require so much white knuckling all the time. They don't require so much excruciating effort. They require waking up. That thing about exploding the confinement of your perspective or your focus, that your mind is actually able to see and perceive what's going on, that surrender to reality. When you're actually awakened to why this brave choice is right for you, it's not so hard, because you see and feel within yourself intrinsically, this is for me, this benefits me, I can feel why this is right. And so it would actually feel way more effort, it would be way more white knuckling to try to pull against that. This takes some bravery to face this, but I want it. Of course I'm going in this direction, I want to. It takes some bravery, it takes some courage to let myself stay awake when certain things that I see will cause momentary fear for me. But if I have the courage to stay present, I will keep on having these moments of, I see the right direction for me. This is for me. This benefits me. Let's go. That's not so hard after all. What was I so scared for? The assumption that it was going to be so terrible actually hurt so much more. The dread actually hurt so much more than the actuality. What was I putting it off for? What was I so scared of? So hopefully that brings some reassurance to anyone who is at a point of hesitation, or perhaps on the verge of something that will trigger some resistance or hesitation for them. And the Knight of Wands, you know, the fire element in the Knight of Wands, it's begging to be unleashed, just like we were talking about with the creativity and the energies from the winds and everything. It's no mistake that we have Wands and Cups here as these elements in these Knight cards that are reversed. Trying to resist fire, trying to resist the tidal waves, it's futile. And it's that fire does not have to be destructive, just like we were talking about with the steed. It can actually be steered if you understand how to have a safe relationship with fire. And that applies to the fires of your feelings and your desires and your creativity, the fires within you, the fires of your heart, perhaps of your mind as well. If you have all these ideas racing through your mind, it's okay to just pick one and start and just bounce around from there. It's okay. So these energies, the water and the fire energies within you, are begging to be unleashed. And with all this, you're not going to resist them much longer. You are going to see that there's actually no real risk in succumbing to them and letting them flow forth and being a steward of them who, like I said, nudges them in the right direction, channels them appropriately, being a steward of these forces within you and your own life force and your own life, rather than being a slave master, someone who's trying to be in control, someone who is trying to hold on tightly and actually choking the life out of things in the process, instead of nourishing the garden and being able to reap the harvest. If you try to control those plants, you're going to end up ripping them out of the ground, but you steward them kindly and abundantly and generously, and they become a reward for you to reap. They pay you back generously, just as you invested in them generously. I keep on forgetting to mention, even though I keep being drawn to it, the world is the 21st major arcana, and in numerology you would add 2 + 1 to reduce it to 3, and the Empress is the 3rd major arcana, so I don't think it's any mistake that we have 33 here, an angel number for any that resonates for, and also this connection between the ending of one cycle with the world and the beginning of a new with the Empress who creates. Okay. The Spirit is signaling to me that we're done with the Shadowscapes Tarot. What else are we drawing from Spirit? I'm being drawn to the Garden Dragons deck. Here's what that deck looks like if you're curious. What else does this group need to hear? What messages need to come through for this collective, Spirit? We have the Blackberry Dragon, timing. I'm hearing trust in divine timing. With the berries and the Empress, there's a message there about what I was just saying about how if you try to rush or control the plants in the fields, you'll end up uprooting them before they have a chance to even grow fruit. You have to trust in divine timing in order for the fruit to actually be ripe when you pick it. If you pick the peach a week before it's ripe, it's bitter and you can't stomach it. If you pick it a week later, 2 weeks later, it's the most delicious thing you've ever tasted and you feel like you're going to heaven. The roses, before they blossom, have thorns on their vines but no buds. But then they bear this incredible fragrance and this incredible beauty. So the juiciness that you're looking for comes from allowing things to ripen and trusting what you're being signaled to do, to put yourself in the right place at the right time, to be able to seize those opportunities when they're ripe, to water and fertilize the ideas that you already have simmering perhaps on the back burner, and to trust when to pull things to the front and when to put them to the back burner and let them simmer. Trusting your guidance so that when the time is right, you are ready and you hear the call and you know, yes, this is time. I know what I'm being called to do. I hear clearly, I feel clearly what I'm being nudged to do. The same way that you might try to nudge the forces that you are working and collaborating with spirit is a theme here. Collaborating with your own life force and your own creativity rather than trying to control them. That's I think, a useful way to frame it if you need a sort of like catchphrase to hook on to, something to kind of sum it up. Collaborate with energies rather than trying to control them, rather than trying to force the outcome that you want from a situation. Notice what forces are actually at play and brainstorm how you can collaborate with them for the best possible outcome for everyone. I'm looking at the guidebook description for the Blackberry Dragon in the field guide to Garden Dragons that comes with the deck. If you've seen me use this before, you might already know. If not, this deck is kind of a mix of spiritual and fun and games. So it has like these really adorable, funny things about like details about the species of dragon, where it lives, what its maturation process is like, as well as mystical meanings from them. So it mentions first these dragons are often mistakenly identified as being black when they are actually the very deepest violet. So there's an echo there of this call to be incredibly intensely present with the feelings of things, with the data that you're getting from the present, so that you can actually see and feel, is this black or is it eggplant? Is it blackberry? Is this something that is inedible, or is this something that will become ripe and delicious like a blackberry, like a peach? Let's see. It also mentions the spinal column protrusions on this dragon are very sharp and thorn-like. It is not recommended to capture the species by hand when nets are available. So again, that call back to stop trying to capture what you're looking for in a cup. It won't fit there. It will hurt you if you try to control the tide, if you try to control the lion, if you try to control the wind or the fire. It will burn you. If you try to capture this in your hands, it will poke you with its thorns, but there are nets available. You can build a trusting relationship where you get to ride the steed and surf the waves. You can build your skills to do that. They love the sun. So there's a message in here for anyone in this group who hasn't been spending much time outside lately to get some time in sunlight, connecting with nature, getting in the flow, the natural flow of the elements and of your own body will help you also harmonize with the flow of your spirit and your emotions and your desires. And this may seem not obvious before you actually do it, but once you do it, you will feel in your body how it harmonizes you with all of these and other currents and other flows. Yeah, that same message is being echoed about treading carefully, because it says, tread carefully, poison ivy is known to cozy up with the blackberry dragon. The blackberry dragon prefers to swarm with others of its ilk. So also the joy in connecting with other people for the sake of joy is something coming through, rather than for the sake of networking or what you can get from them. It's similar to the energy of connecting with a pursuit where you're not doing it to get an audience, you're doing it because you love it and it feeds you so much and you are so inspired to do it that you can't help but draw an audience. But whereas if you were doing it to get an audience and you were approaching that with anxiety and worry, you would end up with that reverse energy of trying to capture sunlight in a cup. So similarly, bringing the energy to your connections of, I'm not going to settle for connections where I'm just trying to get something out of someone, or someone else is just trying to get something out of me, and we aren't really having any fun. We don't even really like each other very much. I'm going to go where there's mutual real love, which has nothing to do with that. What can we get out of each other? Yes, there can still. It's not that having a transaction or an exchange of support eliminates love from the connection. You can absolutely have both, and you should. But to settle for a life that's filled with only transaction and no actual caring, where you just care about someone else because they're a person just like you, and you care about how they feel, that's an empty life to settle for. The same as settling for, going back to, or settling for a job where you like the compensation, but you aren't getting the deeper fulfillment from it when you have an opportunity for deeper fulfillment. So, and this also mentions the berries filled the dragon with strength of body and mind to help make good decisions, because they are full of iron and vitamin C. So that part about making good decisions is also being echoed here, and also a call for nourishment. Some of you may need to be getting your iron and vitamin C, because I'm tasting that. And the mystical meaning this guidebook gives is timing is the issue when the blackberry dragon shows up. It is common wisdom that every problem can be solved by striking at the right moment. This dragon takes time to mature. It can be quite sour-tempered as a young dragonette, while the more mature creatures tend to have sweeter dispositions. Wait before you launch into an argument. Hold back. If you give your opponent time to make mistakes, they will. However, if you leap in too soon, you will be the one caught up in thorns and vines you may not have noticed. A wait-and-see approach is your very best bet right now. Work on your strategy while you let your opposition have just enough rope to hang themselves. So for some of you, you may be very well dealing with exactly what it's describing, where you're waiting to kind of let someone else do what they may, rather than trying to control the outcome and control their decisions. And you'll discover that you won't really have to fuss with it too much, won't really have to mess with things too much, once you see what outcome they end up kind of signing themselves up for. You'll get to kind of just let go and walk away without so much fuss if you let things unfold for a little bit first. For some of you, it may not really be about this type of conflict situation, this message. It may be more about, okay, with the Seven of Cups energy, I'm not sure. I'm letting go, I'm understanding, but I'm not really sure which direction I'm being called to next. So I'm waiting, I'm clearing the space and doing something I enjoy to fill myself up and recharge, and to open the space for the next intuitive call to drop in. And once that stone drops into the water, I will respond and I'll go answer that call, rather than trying to force something. That's it for the Dragon Field Guide. What else, Spirit? What other decks do we want to bring in today? I'm being called to the Foxfire deck. Here's what that deck looks like if you are curious. What other messages do we want to bring through for this pile, Spirit? Okay. We have Past Lives, number 7. I'm feeling that this was drawn to come out under the World and the Empress for a reason. It's like you're letting go of something from a past life. Some of you, the reason this particular end of a chapter and start of a new cycle, or one of the reasons, it's so liberating and so expansive and such a radical transformation from the cocoon to the butterfly that's happening with this specific shift, is because after a lot of little shifts, you have slowly but surely unwound some karma, some trauma from past lives, some generational karma or generational trauma, or just patterns that have run through your family line or through your past lives. And they're erased now. Like we talked about with the ribbon, the cord has been cut. And so you're on to the next. This past lives figure is even looking in the same direction that we saw the Seven of Cups, and the World figure looking into the left. And the newness is ready. You're ready to stop looking back. There's nothing there anymore. It's like that quote of that saying, don't look back, you're not going that way. Well, maybe that's been hard to do up till now because there was something you were trying to salvage because you thought, like we've gone over, that was the only way to get that thing, to fulfill that desire or that need, to meet that need. But now there's nothing there anymore. There's no pull there. You've unwound that completely and you're ready to springboard off, like we talked about, and into the new. And any other last messages for this group? Because I'm being told that we don't need to go into what you're releasing from the past lives, because it is like the canvas is blank now. It's the slate has been wiped clean. The slate has been broken and into dust, disintegrated into dust. There's no confines of a slate anymore. You get to just have the canvas of the entire 3D world and not just this little slate to draw on. You don't have to, yeah, that's a message coming through. You don't have to confine your visions to just imaginings in your head, to just brainstorming on paper. You can bring it into the real world now because everything that's been holding you back has been dissolved. And many of you have done a lot of work to dissolve those limitations and ties. So there's a real sense of like fortifying you with that knowledge of look how far you've come, look how hard you worked, look how it's paying off, look how it's about to pay off. Instead of looking back and holding yourself back, feel the strength that you have created, that you have gathered within you from all that you have been through. You don't need to look back at what you went through. You can feel the fruits of your labors within you and now begin to express them into the world, speak them into the world, create externally and not just in ideas and fantasies. Like we talked about with decision paralysis, where the Seven of Cups might have all these ideas and not bring any of them into the world. Because how do you choose? It's like, well, I don't have to. I'm going to let it choose me. I'm going to let my intuition, or what would make me happiest, what feels really good to work on now, what is calling me, what energy wants to move through me right now. I'm going to let that decide, and I'm going to roll with it, and I'm going to see what comes next. And when I get the next nudge to respond to, I'll respond to that, even if it means changing course at that time. And do not confine yourself to only dreaming in your head. Dream out loud. Dream in color. Dream in solid things, paints and music and dancing. Dream with your body. Go out into the world. Connect with the earth and with others. And bring your connection to yourself into these connections rather than keeping your connection with yourself at home and presenting a false front in every other place. Yes, use your discernment about what you want to share with whom and when. It's not always safe to share everything with everyone. It's not always called for. But instead of, I'm getting this image like it's plugged. It's like you have yourself plugged in to your home environment where it's your safe cocoon, your safe nest, but you kind of leave it behind, and instead you're being called to actually plug it into the external world as well when you go out into the world, into nature, into activities, whether it's online or outside, whether it's with people or nature, animals, plants, your creative pursuits. Plug it in. That's an essential part of creating that infinity loop, that infinite recharge loop. You're not going to be recharged by your activities if you aren't plugged into them. They're not going to be charged up by you and filled with the beautiful vibrations you can pour into them, the caring, the love, the passion that you can pour into them if you're not plugged into them. You have to make the connection. And it might feel jarring, like a frizone of sparks and static electricity at first. Just like learning to surf or ride this dangerous steed would be a bumpy ride at first, but you'll settle into this groove and learn this balance between surrendering and activity, surrendering and action, responding to your urges to create, your creative impulses, responding to where are the energies that you collaborate with to create your life want to go, and letting yourself be in charge in the sense of being at the helm of the ship steering the wheel, but not need to be in charge in the sense of controlling everything or trying to resist or say no to where the energies want to go. Your job being at the helm and steering the wheel is to find the safest path to go where those energies are leading you to go. Your job is not to tell them, no, I think you're wrong. Unless, of course, there's a real genuine conflict to be resolved. But when we're talking about second guessing and self-doubt and controlling out of fear, that's not your job. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I truly hope these messages and these energies, because it's a really powerful energies that I've been sitting in and channeling today, so I hope those come through just as strongly and beautifully as I've been feeling them, and I hope they help just as tremendously and magnificently as they feel. And I hope truly that those messages reach exactly who they are meant to reach, exactly who needs to hear them, and who can benefit for the highest and best good of all from them. If you are interested in personal readings, you'll find the link to my website in the description box and in my bio. Also the link to my Instagram if you're interested in shorter messages. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this has been helpful for you. I always look forward to hearing from you if you have comments about how it's resonated with you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next reading.